still continuing with this build. So, one thing to note is that you should acknowledge when a build has failed, when it hasn't done much at all, and he's lost a ton of units and really not done much damage at all. He's been mostly defensive with these units, and again, Siege Tank's probably the best defensive unit in the game. These Banshees are going to move out here. He does a nice job of repairing this, though. That's fine. Looks like a single Banshee going to survive, and he's taking a 4th base over here. I would have preferred this being the 3rd base, and then, well, I would have preferred the gold actually being the 3rd base, but whatever. Gonna speed this up a little bit. Getting Thors now. Thors are okay. They're not great. I like tanks better, but Thors aren't terrible. The anti-air for Thors in TVT is pretty poor. You have to rely on your Vikings for that. Oh wow, I didn't notice this. So, look at these control groups. He has the tanks as one control group. Oh, sorry, 1 tank and 2 medevacs as a control group, and that's it. Okay, looks like he does have the Raxes all control grouped up. But the factories, all 3 of them not control grouped. The starport not control grouped. The orbital command and the planetary fortress, both of them, or sorry, all 3 of them, I guess. This is unnecessary, by the way. The planetary fortress over here. He already has one over here, and more importantly, he has a large army to defend. So you don't really want to be building up static defenses when you have an overwhelming army, or at least a decent army in comparison to your opponents. And he does have an overwhelming army compared to his opponent, which he would have been able to scout out if he had scanned, but he's been using most of this for mules, I assume. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. So, the planetary fortress is pretty useless in TVT because your opponent just has siege tanks, which outrange it very much. Scan. There we go. And his opponent actually has nothing over here, but instead he's just going to A-move and lose so much here. Lose pretty much everything here. Unnecessarily. Completely unnecessarily. He could have easily won this battle. Instead he's going to lose his entire army. So that's just rushing things, A-moving way too far, and yeah, those control groups, I think that's the majority of the problem for Lazarus right now. I would say that that's it. So that can be contributed to the SCV count over here at the main. That can be contributed to his relatively poor army composition. He hasn't gotten these factories into a single control group. Let's see, that can also go back to these planetary fortresses, so not having a proper army. Also, this turret has been pretty bad, slowing down that gas mining considerably. But if you had a bigger army, you don't really need planetary fortresses. You're much better off with those orbital commands. I'm a little curious why he's so supply depot heavy, why he has so many of them. He has 35 supply, still 35 supply, under his cap. And yeah, so I mean, aside from that, what else has he done wrong? This building placement up here was pretty bad, but his other building placement is fine, really. Well, a turret over here would be nice. This turret isn't necessary. This one should be a little bit higher, but that's not really too bad of a thing. So many turrets over here is probably also a pretty bad idea, but that can also be traced back to the poor macro job. Poor army composition by LazarusWall, because if you have sufficient anti-air, say mass Viking, then you'll do fine. Oh, the scouting hasn't been very good either. He's trying to do that now. He's trying to see where his opponent is, and there's nothing wrong with just sending a marine or two just around the map, seeing what bases have been taken or not. And I was just gonna A-move in here and take down this base, no problem. And he's also going to take this one and win the game. I think he actually might lose his army again, but whatever. So the upgrades have been pretty decent, although not these upgrades. He's gotten, what is that, 03? He's going for 03. Okay, he does have some upgrades on these Thors, so that's good. The double eBay was bad. He actually got the, what is this? This is, okay, so he got the, what is that, armor for buildings, and he also got the turret range and planetary fortress range. So I have yet to come across a situation where either of those would be handy. I guess the building range would kind of be helpful against mass muta, but that's about it. And now he's going to win. So, okay, let's go over the things that LazarusWall really needs to focus on. So, first off, this building placement. You want to master your wall. You want to see how many different ways you can make this wall on every single spawning point on every single map that's on the ladder. So, it sounds kind of tedious, but it's not going to take more than, say, 2 minutes per map. Well, okay, on these 4-player maps, it's probably going to take more like 10 minutes, but on like steps or blistering sands, then it probably shouldn't take longer than 2 minutes. Let's see, what else? The army composition. So, you want to be going more mech than infantry. You want to be getting tanks and Vikings. I'm actually going to rewind this. He does eventually win. He's just tasting down buildings now. I just want some more time to talk. So, more mech, more focus on these tanks, more focus on the Vikings, and if you do decide to go for these Marines and Marauders, you want to be abusing the mobility of these medevacs. You want to be just dropping as much as you can. It doesn't really work now that his opponent's got a whole bunch of turrets up, but the very least he could do is deny this expansion. He could have completely denied this expansion, or at least made it extremely difficult for his opponent to take a hold there. And doing that, well, keeping your opponent inside of the space means that you can afford to take these bases and make them orbital commands, and that's just gonna implement a lot of, well, it's going to help out your economy just a ton using those mules, and if you need to, the supply drops. He could have afforded to just not build as many supply depots. He's never really maxed out. And I think the biggest thing that LazarusWall needs to work on is getting these guys into control groups, getting all your orbital commands, command centers, and planetary fortresses into control groups, getting all your producing buildings, your starports, and your factories, as well as your barracks, into control groups. Because that's what you really need to do. You don't need mass marines. Just not a good idea in TVT. Mass Marauder not much better with the medevacs that you get pretty good, but still, you want to be going for these tanks. You want to be going for the Vikings. Sometimes you want those Marauders under your troops, but still, yeah, just more focus on the tanks, more focus on the Vikings. And for that, it is okay to get 2 armies for that all the time, because there's 4 upgrades that you need. Well, 12 upgrades, I guess, that you need. But, and there's just not enough time in most games to get all 12 on a single armory. So, doing the double eBay was a pretty poor idea. He got up these gases late, but he's going mostly this army composition. You will need these gases up considerably earlier, and these gases as well, if you're going for that, for the tank and Viking build that most higher level Terrans prefer. So I think that's just about it. The wall, the army composition, control groups, supply depots, planetary fortresses. Yeah, that seems just about all the things that LazarusWall should really be working on. Oh, and also doing these drops more frequently and in greater number. And if you do the drops, you probably want to go all Marauder, or like 3 Marauders and 2 Marines. So, that's it for this time. Hope you found that helpful, and until next time, GG, I guess.